And I would like to introduce to you Dr. Diana Cournoyer, who is the Program Director of the National Indian Education Association in Washington, D.C. Prior to coming to NIEA, Diana was a Program Manager at the Oglala, and I hope I'm saying that right, Lakota College in South Dakota. She has also been the Training and Intervention Coordinator at the Intertribal Health Board at the Southern Plains Intertribal Epidemiology Center in Oklahoma City. Welcome, Diana. We are so honored that you have joined us today.
Hello, and thank you, Heidi. I'd like to start off by saying I appreciate you, Heidi, giving me my doctoral status. Unfortunately, I haven't made it that far yet, so I do thank you for that acknowledgement. I still have a few more courses left and a dissertation to write, but I appreciate the acknowledgement. Yes, my name is Diana Cournoyer. I'm with the National Indian Education Association. We're located in Washington, D.C. Our offices are in Washington, D.C., but I always say that NIEA is everywhere. It's in Indian country. It's wherever anybody that's calling in this on this webinar, that's Indian country, and that's where NIEA exists. We have approximately 2,500 members in NIEA, but we service every student, every Native Alaskan, and Native Hawaiian student, and every teacher who teaches our students and services our communities, as Native communities. I'd like to start off with some acknowledgement of our partners. As a national nonprofit, none of this work that I've been able to do over the past 2 years would be possible without partners, of course. So Bill and Melinda Gates is our funding partner. South Central Comprehensive Center, and specifically, I would like to call out Jacob Zotai for supporting fiscally as well as programmatically, and his infinite amount of knowledge to do what I'm able to do. Northrop Grumman for the support in developing the resource repository that I'll be talking about later on in the presentation. The University of Oklahoma Public and Community Services Division and Continuing Ed, and then Casey Jones, who is my partner in training of the core standards around Washington and New Mexico. So those who are familiar with NIEA know that this website is different than, I would say, at least the last 10 years. First off, NIEA is a member-driven organization founded by grassroots, Native educators, advocates, families, community members, tribal leadership. With that in mind, NIEA current staff and our board decided we needed to do more to service those people who have supported NIEA for a number of years. We are 47 years old as of this year, looking forward to our 50th. And what does that mean? And for us, that means keeping that purpose in mind and being able to redesign, developing a communication system that is supportive of everyone involved in making NIEA what it is today and supporting the resources that I'll be talking about throughout the presentation. In our planning of a new website, we thought about who do we service, what groups of people, and we came up with areas on our website that includes everybody. Like I said, tribal leaderships, our communities, our parents, everyone. So those are our advocates. Without those voices, without those people standing up, this work wouldn't be done. Then you have our educators. Those are our teachers. Those are our school leaders. Those are our researchers. Anyone who is in the field for the betterment of educating our students. And then you have our students. We couldn't do what we do without our students, so we provide resources for students in the K-12 system as well as post-secondary and helping them in those areas to be successful. Within our education, or for advocates, our education priorities section is following our strategic plan as far as NIEA, again, a member-driven organization, so our priorities are member-driven, and we determine what that is at our convention through our World Cafes, through conversations with our members, determining what our next steps are. Take action. This is our advocacy toolkit, helping people understand how to advocate, how to speak on the Hill, how to talk with policymakers, your decision makers, about funding concerns, about issues around what's going on at your local level. NIEA has never had the premise of we know everything. It's our community and it's our members that tell us what's going on at the local level. So we support you in developing that through an advocacy toolkit. The new Every Student Succeeds Act, which was recently signed in December, there's some new implementation pieces. We support that through what we call one-pagers and primers to help community-level advocates, tribal leadership, educators understand what does ESSA mean to us now. It's not No Child Left Behind, it's something new. What does this mean to me and my community and my school and my students? So we help frame that for you. And then the final piece is meaningful tribal consultation. Those that are familiar with Indian education for a number of years, we're familiar with consultation, tribal consultation. What ESSA has been able to do and push forward is develop meaningful consultation. Non-Native folks are not sure what does that mean, so we're helping in our Take Action section of our website to determine what does meaningful consultation look like. All of our testimonies and speeches are provided online, and then every year resolutions that are passed at our convention are hung on our website as well. Under the For Educators section, this is where I'll be talking about the Culture Resource Repository. This section includes lesson plans, education research, innovative programming and practices, and policy and legislation. Tools and support are our databases, reports and statistics, and then professional development. Eventually will be, it is not hanging right now, eventually it will be at our trainings that we offer to local level educators and community. Our webinars, about 2 years ago, we started doing a monthly webinar depending on the needs of the community. So currently all of the webinars that we have hosted are on our website. We will be adding more webinars starting at the end of May and throughout the year, again based on whatever is needing to be addressed at the community level. We're going to focus a lot on ESSA and helping people understand what meaningful consultation looks like and how to involve tribal leadership and tribal communities. And then our reports. This section, I have to admit, doesn't get updated as often as it should be. And our statistics, I understand, some of them are outdated. Again, as a researcher and talking to researchers, everyone must understand in American Indian communities, in education, or Alaska Native and Native Hawaiian communities, our numbers are so small that oftentimes our data is not collected every year. For example, the BIE doesn't collect or share their data, their student data annually. So the most recent Bureau of Indian Education data that I can get is 2012-2013. And there's a few years that skip in the past, so it's really hard to do a comparison. So what I can do as far as my abilities in my position and the resources I have is update the reports and the databases and the statistics as often as I possibly can when the data is available. But you can also call me if you need something really specific, and I more than likely will have a contact or someone that I know that I can get some specific information for you. Our reports are aimed to deepen our understanding, so we try again to update these statistical reports and information, anything that comes out from a federal agency in regards to Indian country. We try to get this hung up really quickly and put up an advertisement out to let people know that it's hanging. And then for students, like I said, helping a student understand and navigate applying for college. What does that mean? When do I start? What information should I gather before I start my application? The support is the financial aid pieces, the scholarship pieces. Those that are interested in graduate school. Pointing them in the right direction, again, to American Indian Graduate Center, the resources where the support is already located. I don't like to reinvent the wheel, and I use our partners quite often to help with this section. So the reason that I really wanted to talk about what NIEA has done up to this point, again, member-driven, direct services. NIEA has been a federal policy, an advocate on the Hill for a majority, 45 years of our 47-year existence. It has been determined just recently that although we put policy in place and we can advocate, what's going on at the local level is not necessarily what we wanted to see as NIEA members and board and staff. So there was a concept that came up to create a repository, a place where Native and non-Native educators and advocates could go to and find cultural-based education resources. And what this will include are lesson plans, units, curriculum provided to us by community. These are not lesson plan units and curriculum that I'm developing or any of our staff are developing. This is an open call for anyone to submit their best practices when it comes to cultural-based education. In addition to uploading a lesson plan, a unit, or curriculum, we're also including resource links. We currently have Oklahoma State Department of Education resource link with a list of their curriculum that is being supported by the state. We have Montana, we have Washington State. I've received several emails from Nebraska and Wisconsin and Minnesota, and they want to share their resources. So that'll be one piece of the repository. The second piece is education research. This is participatory or community-based research and action research. This is dissertations, thesis, any research conducted by the RELs or the comprehensive centers, any research that is being conducted that focuses on Indian education, not specifically the academic pieces, but also the social emotional pieces, involving the community in regards to supporting education for Indian students. The third piece will be innovative practices and successful programming. As Indian country, there's 567 different nations who could potentially be doing 567 different things, programming differently. What we want to do in offering this repository is share those successive programs. Why implement something if you're not sure if it's successive? Why recreate the wheel if somebody else is doing it successfully? We want to offer the space to share successful programming. And then the fourth repository will be policy and legislative documents. Again, as you enter into the ESSA era of education, tribes are able to create partnerships with state departments of education. They're able to drive the conversation. So we're encouraging those that have successful memorandums of understanding, cooperative agreements, to share those with us, and we hang them in this resource repository. We link to your community, to your tribe, to your successful program, so that there's conversation across tribes, across states, in regards to a better Native education system. So how do we get all this information? Because it's not being developed by me or my staff, it's being developed by you guys, everybody who's on the phone, everyone who's going to listen to this webinar in the future. I need your education research. I need to know what you're doing that's successful in programming, and I need to know what your tribal leadership is doing to develop legislation with the state. What's happening that's successful? What policy is working in Montana or in Washington that we can implement in New Mexico or Arizona? I'm not saying we can do exactly the same, but what steps did you take in creating those relationships? For every repository, we will have a review committee. Nothing gets hung without going through a review committee. The review committees for lesson plans will include educators, Native and non-Native, from multiple states and regions, also as a cultural-based foundation piece. Native educators who understand cultural-based education strategies inclusive of language and culture and community. This is our tribal and organizational partners. And then for our policy and legislative documents, it's our tribal leaders and our legislative board committee. Where's the repository house? It's on our website, under for educators. Location to house the curriculum, the lesson plans, the units, and all of the materials. Again, it's an open call. I haven't announced an open call since January, but you can now send me information. As I get information by August, I have all of my review committees on standby, and they're going to begin reviewing everything in August. Lesson plans, education research, policy and programming, legislative information. Any links, any supplemental links that you want to share, again, those will go through a committee, but those can be hung on the website. This is open access to browse, to download, to use over and over again. You don't have to be a member of NIEA. It is free to submit and to download resources. The link is provided on the webinar, and it's located for educators on our NIEA.org website. You want to know how to submit a lesson plan, you go to the repository, and we have you log in, create a login access, username and password, and you can get on and download the lesson plan template. Use it, prepare your lesson plan offline, and then you can go and submit. We also provided some tips on how to submit. This is on the right, the document on the right-hand side is exactly what it'll look like as a fillable web development document. You could use the document on the left to prepare what you need and then go and submit everything online. I want to thank you again for giving me the opportunity to share what NIEA is doing as far as our repository and how we're including our members and our non-members, our community. We're really excited about this repository and want to ensure that everyone is involved in this, because that's what it's going to take to ensure that our education systems are going in the direction that they should be going, towards a Native focus, the Native education system driven by our tribal leadership and our tribal members. So again, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Diana. We really appreciate the overview of all of the resources that you have in the repository. I believe you said it during your presentation, but one of the questions that came in during the registration was, were the resources that you're providing free?
Yes, they are free. Free to use and free to submit.
Awesome, awesome. And then we had another question submitted by Amy when she registered, And she said, are there any resources or links for specific tribal national groups instead of the general native?
So again, on the when you're browsing, when you go to the website, to the repository, and you're able to browse, browsing by tribe is an option. And when someone submits a lesson plan, and if it's a tribal specific, they'll put that in the title for their lesson. We also have the opportunity for immersion schools or teachers that are teaching in an immersion program to upload their lesson, and that piece, they're asked what tribal affiliation the immersion curriculum or lesson would be under. So that can be a searchable item.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. I believe that's most of the questions that we had at this point for you, Diana. We'll come back and give you some more that would go to the whole panel. And everyone that's listening, as you're listening to these presentations, please type in your questions. And we're going to go ahead now and move to Brian.